Hi, this is Devin at 5-Star Marine. Today we're going to show you on how to pull off this trim unit off this 85C model Yamaha. She's a real good motor. You know, just after so many years, you know, you got to start doing maintenance and whatnot, which is no problem. This unit was actually purchased about 5 years ago. The unit on there originally was actually not repairable. It was just completely shot. So we had purchased this from a freshwater motor somewhere in Georgia, I believe. At any rate, she lasted about 5 years, but you know, evidently it needed to be rebuilt, and that's why I recommend rebuilding these units rather than just replacing them with used ones, etc. Because you know, you end up just having to do it anyways. And really a properly rebuilt unit should last you about 20 years if everything is polished out properly and the proper seals are used, and also a better, you know, a higher quality oil that's more corrosion resistant rather than the biodegradables and stuff like that that the manufacturers use, which tend to degrade and turn into brown muck over time. There's like a bunch of microbes living in there. It's terrible. And at any rate, the corrosion resistance property really isn't there when the ram extends out and comes back in. There's always a microfilm that remains on the ram, and that helps protect it and keep it, you know, lasting a long time. And this is a fully rebuilt unit. We sandblasted, epoxy coated it as well, so that it's, you know, resistant to corrosion and stuff like that in the harsh saltwater environment, which is, you know, pretty detrimental to anything man-made. The ocean seems to take anything man-made and bring it back to the earth. It's 85C model Yamaha 3-cylinder. It's the same as the 60, 70, 85 and 90 horsepower. Really one of my favorite Yamaha 2-strokes in the smaller horsepower range. Great motor all the way around. This has a 3-ram system. Various models from different years, but they all come off the same way. It's a great motor all the way around, really. Now, to remove this unit, you're going to have to remove the side bracket right here, which is held on by a couple points. One being the 2 mounting bolts on your transom that hold your motor to your transom, and the 3 mounting bolts on each side. Okay, and you'll also have to back off your tilt tube nut. So you'll have to pull off your steering tube nut and then your tilt tube nut, and then you'll have to move this plate over here about, I'd say about that much, and that will alleviate you enough room to actually pull this unit out of here and get it out. And also there's a top mounting pin that is held in there by a retaining ring or circlip or whatever you'd like to call it. And you can actually take 2 picks and just pry these apart and get them off of there, and then finagle their way back on when you put it back on. But you need to use these for sure. At any rate, we're going to use the impact here to try to speed some of this up. And you want to make sure that this thing is mounted all the way up. And if you can't get this thing mounted up, try to use the manual release. If the manual release is frozen, you can always heat it up and try to relieve it that way, but do not try to booger it up, you know, to a certain extent where it'll just, you know, trash the unit. These are built with safety relief valves in the mechanism, so if you do prop up the lower unit somehow, you could actually get the unit to release upward. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just trim it the right way, but evidently you're pulling it off because it's not working properly, so that's not always, you know, the case. You can't always do that. At any rate, let's get this thing off of here. We're going to clip these wires for starters. Okay. Let's see here. So you got your wires clipped. I just say clip the wires. It's much easier than chasing down your harness. This motor really isn't too bad, but some other motors have a very tight wire harness in there, and you actually do more harm than good tearing in there. Pull these out. Out of juice. that side off. Now to do this side, and again, make sure that this is locked down with these two tabs here. Okie dokie. Pull these out. Just 3 on each side, no big deal. Where's this last one here? It's around there somewhere. Okie dokie. Now to loosen your steering tube nut. And if you have hydraulic steering, you'll have to pull that off. Just on that side. You don't have to actually remove the entire steering system. But just this nut, and then the second nut behind it. Okay. And this unit's going to be suspended. This whole motor is really going to be suspended by that side bracket, which is fine. Alrighty here. Just get yourself an adjustable open end. So you can have to give it the big wrench here. Set it up just enough. Get the little wrench on it. Back this girl off just a wee bit. It's not always this easy. This boat's pretty well taken care of overall. Some boats sit in water for extended periods of time, etc. So, applying some heat, penetrating oil, stuff like that. Heat works best more than anything because it will actually expand the aluminum on this area. Because this will tighten up pretty hard on the tilt tube and not allow you to actually pull that sideways, which can take some time. Spent several hours trying to get these off before. Not an elegant sight either, trying to pull these off when they're all crusted up. But being in Florida, that's pretty much all we have over here. There we go. And you can actually alleviate just a wee bit more slack by pushing that over. That should be just enough room. Okie dokie. I'll take a little hammer or brass mallet and just tap this thing over. Try not to hit this ram. This is very crucial for you not to do that. Okie dokie. We'll just back this off just a wee bit more. Why not? There we go. And then your top mounting pin can take a little, and be careful working underneath. This is a very heavy motor, and it's not worth anyone's time for this thing to fall on you. Medical bills are, well, very expensive. There we go. Got that out of there. And there she goes. Voila. And this is a fully rebuilt unit we just did. I just put this on. The rams are all polished up and she's all ready to go. Just wanted to show you guys how to do it and make somebody's life a little easier. Now let's put this thing right back on here. Now, normally speaking, this thing's going to be retracted all the way downward, but in this scenario, it's in the up position, which is fine. We can install it this way as well. But normally, I recommend that units are installed with all the rams retracted inward. That way, when you put it up there, you can just use the trim button after you connect your electrical and align the top eyelet hole. Just like that. Tap this over. Right in place. Put your mounting bolts in here. Always apply a little grease to these as well. God forbid you ever had to pull it off again. It'd be nice to be able to without fussing with it too hard. If I could find these mounting bolts, it'd be great. All right. And you don't need an impact for this job. Just when you do it for a living, it makes your day go by a little quicker. This old Craftsman's seen better days. You never want to rely on a final, on your impact for a final torque on something. You always want to do it by hand, so you know 100% that you have a good torque spec on this thing. These just make the job go by quicker. Alrighty. Take your 14mm open end or socket. Give it some torque. Take this nut here and try to grease this while you have it apart. It's always a good idea. And again, this is probably the most problematic part of this whole deal if you're in saltwater, which this gentleman is in saltwater, but again, his boat's in pretty good condition for its age. It's pretty, I think it's like this is 95, last two numbers in the back of the hull are always the year the boat was made. She's going to be 21 this year. There's really no fast way to get this thing on here. Always try to give it a good torque. And always give it a good, a bigger wrench, if you will, especially on these tilt tubes. On these trim units, they require some drag on the way down, And when they don't have that, they don't really function as they should. They're a little bit sloppy. They don't have that drag. They can jump and do all kinds of things. Good. Nice. There we go. And always apply grease to all of these fittings and stuff like that. That way they stay fresh and they're easily serviceable when need be. And this aluminum nut holding the steering on is not as tight as your tilt tube. But it should definitely be paid attention to as well, because that's what holds your steering on here snug. And your anode, these anodes, basically when you pull these bolts off, if you're in salt water, they tend to break. You can actually use this external anode. You can drill and tap into your brackets and stuff like that and put, you know, pretty much a generic anode. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's a zinc. You'll be good to go. And connect your power. And where's that pin? Take this pin, just put it right through here. And boom, you're ready to rock and roll. Simple as that. And don't forget to connect your power. You always want to use shrink wrap butt connectors. Wish I had some right here by me. You always want to use shrink wrap butt connectors when you put these back together. On older models, you'll have a 3-wire system. On newer models, you'll have a 2-wire, which is a reverse polarity system. The older styles are actually a little bit better in quality, but they all work the same pretty much. Yeah, this is that's how you take off a tilt unit and put it back on this 85C or whether it's a 60 or 70 or 85 or 90 horsepower Yamaha 3-cylinder. That's how you do the trim unit on here. So there you go. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. I'll be trying to post more of these just like this if I can find the time. But